about those trees that was in the garden with Adam.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, don't forget that point. Now this is the book. This is the book of Josephus, book 1 of Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 7. All right. The subheading or the subtitle is how Abram, our forefather, went out of the land of the Chaldeans and lived in the land called Canaan, but now is called Judea. Uh, Number 1, paragraph 1. It says, now Abram, having no son of his own, adopted Lot, his brother Haran's son, and his wife Sarah's brother. And he left the land of Chaldee when he was 75 years old, and at the command of the Most High went into Canaan, and therein he dwelt himself, and left it to his posterity. He was a person of great sagacity. That's talking about Abram or Abraham, all right? Because the word Abram means father of many, but then and then the Lord changed his name to Abraham, which means father of a multitude, because all the chosen line, they came out of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Pretty much each tribe will make up a whole nation, you know, father of a multitude. And then and then not only that, the other sons that he had by the other women, you know. All right, you had what? You had six sons with Keturah.
Torah, yep.
1 son by Hagar, 1 son by Sarah.
Yep.
All right, and all the children that came out of them. So, but the chosen line came to do Isaac and Jacob. All right, and it says he was a person of great sagacity. Sagacity means a man who searches out things, finds out about everything. You know, and pretty much that's what the Spirit of the Lord got upon us. You know, not to brag or boast. But the Spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is resting upon GMS, man. And that's what cats gotta understand. We're not boasting ourselves, we're boasting Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and that he's with us. And we're trying to tell dudes, look, the Lord's with us. Follow this way or the other way is destruction. That's all we're saying.
Right, because you know why? Because the Lord selected us out. Because basically the Most High, there was a lot of bullshit going on. And the Most High said, like he told Elijah, he has 7,000 men that were reserved. So, you know, the Lord had us reserved, as well as you other brothers that's out there that's teaching the same thing, that's now, you know, holding back, not candy coating nothing or whatever. You see, basically, it's one, like the scriptures say, one faith, one Lord, it's one truth, you know. But yet you got all these other different groups out there, which is all right, though, because what did Yahweh Shai say? He said, my sheep hear my voice.
That's right.
So we ain't stressing nothing. We ain't going out there.
Exactly.
We ain't going to change nothing to cater to nobody. We just going to come out with the truth.
Right.
The same way the elder brothers taught it to us. It's the same way we're going to continue to teach it. And those who are part of the elect, you're going to hear it.
That's right.
And that's why the Spirit got, I mean, be honest, you know, we getting off the subject a little, but who's working as hard, especially the elders. Elder, because you got a bunch of elders, but the elder Tahar, elder Gabar, elder Rakai, elder Ramla. You know, and then them 3 brothers, the shows they put together, man, come on, man.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody else doing that, man.
Yeah, man.
You know, just coming, dedicated and coming with the truth.
Diligent.
And that's where we get the inspiration for to keep doing the shows, whatever shows that we do. We get it from them, as well as you other brothers do.
That's right.
You know, so hey, so the Most High set it up that way, brother.
That's it. So now going back to Josephus real quick, it says this is about Abraham. He was a person of great sagacity, both for understanding all things and persuading his hearers.
Right, because see, and you got to understand, man, that this thing was passed down from the time of Adam all the way down to Abraham. All right, and the Most High was the Lord was always with his people. He was with Abraham. And persuading who? His hearers. Yeah, meaning, what? He was convincing the gainsayer.
The gainsayer, that's right. Convincing the gainsayer.
The other nations. Because the other nations, they always had their own beliefs. And just like to this day, the scriptures say there's nothing new under the sun. So they was into certain, all that Hotep and all that other bullshit. These different idols and all that. They always was into that.
Yeah, different name probably.
Yeah, they had different names they called them. And some of them names are really the same names. They just rehacked. Or brought them back today.
That's it.
But the Spirit was on Abraham, where he was able to what? He was able to convince them that they gods who basically was bullshit.
Right.
And the nations knew that. Like going back to the trees during the time of Adam in the garden, they envy. And the scripture's going to tell you that when we get back to Ezekiel, that the mother nations they envied Adam.
Right.
because of the knowledge that the Most High gave him.
That's
That's
right.
the same knowledge that we're reading about right here with our father Abraham.
That's right, man. All right, and it says, and not mistaken in his opinions, for which reason he began to have higher notions of virtue than others had. So that's one of the reasons why they envied him.
Yeah.
And he determined to renew and to change the opinion all men happen then to have concerning the Most High. For he was the first that ventured to publish this notion, that there was but one power.
Right, because you got to remember that the other nations, they were into all these idols. Remember, what was his uncle Tehran? Was Tehran his uncle
Tehran was his
or his brother?
Terah was his father.
Haran,
Right, his brother.
the
one who
that,
passed.
well, both of them, Terah and Haran.
Right.
They both had all the
Right.
idols.
Exactly. Yeah, they both.
You got to remember that. That's what the other nations was into. So that's why I
Right.
said Abraham was the first one to say, "Look, no, there's only one power."
Right.
Because these other nations, that's how they thought.
Right.
You see, and
Which
that's
is
why. Right, and that's going back during the time of Adam in Genesis the 3rd chapter, when the serpent came and said, "Look, the Most High said for you not to eat of all these trees," meaning what? For you to not to follow all these other gods.
right.
That's basically what they were doing when they ate of the tree. They started following, worshiping the gods and the customs of the other nations.
Right. Which that's called polytheism, meaning meaning many,
Many, yep.
and theo is gods,
Many
meaning
gods.
many gods. You know.
Yep.
So, I mean, pretty much all nations do. All nations pretty much are the as far as the worship of many gods. They all worship the same gods. All these nations, they always did throughout all these generations, but they just call them different names.
But the thing is,
You know?
that was their lot.
That's it. Yeah.
Jake's lot was to worship the Most High.
Right.
Right.
Right. 'Cause that's what the scriptures say. That Jacob's portion is not like unto them.
Right.
You know, Jacob's portion is who? Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. He's not like these false gods, because a false god is a rock or a piece of wood. You know, it can't save
Can't
itself.
deliver.
It can't deliver. All right, so going back on real quick, it says, let me see. For which reason he began to have higher notions of virtue than others had, and he just like Adam. All right, you
Yep.
know. It says, and he determined to renew and to change the opinion all men happened then to have concerning the Most High. For he was the first that ventured to publish this notion, that there was but one power, the creator of the universe, and that as to other gods, if they contributed anything to the happiness of men, that each of them afforded it only according to his appointment, and not by their own power. In other words, if anything, those false gods that they had, they set them up, you know, to make themselves be happy, you know, and to please them. But those false gods didn't do nothing for them, man. But as you read on there, if you go to the book of Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, book 1, chapter 7, read that chapter, and it gives you more information about, you know, what went on with that. But, you know, going back to Genesis 3rd chapter.
Right. So now I'll read again from 1. So now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord power had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye should not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High hath said, Ye should not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Now, if you can, brother, real quick, give me a Proverbs, the 5th chapter. You know what I want, right? Drink water.
Give me one
Water
second.
out of thy own 5, and
My own sister.
I'll tell you the verse if you ain't got it already. Chapter 5, and you start at I guess 15. 15.
Proverbs.
Because now, right here, back at verse 2, it says, it said, Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord powers have made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye should not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, the trees of the garden, which meaning what? They had the Most High had gave them their own knowledge, laws, and commandments to follow. That's what they were supposed to eat of. They were supposed to worship that, get into that. And then it says, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, meaning the other nations that are around us, because the garden was what? The garden was Eden, right? Eastward in Eden, technically.
Right. The garden was eastward in Eden. Eden is the earth. Eden is from the Hebrew word Idan. The garden is talking about Israel, the land of Israel. And the way you know that when you read the scriptures, when it breaks down about the what is that in Genesis?
The second chapter.
The second chapter.
About the four rivers.
Right, about the four rivers. That's how you get to find out where that garden was located. And when you come to find out, that garden was located in Israel, what is now known as Israel, formerly known as the land of Canaan. If the Lord allow, we'll get a chance to break that down as well.
The word Eden meant paradise because it was a paradise. So now again, when it says the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the trees which is in the midst of the garden, meaning the other nations that was around in that area,
right?
That's where civilization began. And like the brother said, if we get a chance, we'll go to prove that. Furthermore, which you could go to the book of Galatians too. All right, but to hit this point, read what you got, brother.
All right, this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 5, verse 15. Drink waters out of thine own cistern.
Right, now the waters is not talking about actual waters. It's symbolic because a cistern was what you used to what? To draw water from a well. So when it says drink water out of thine own cistern, meaning what? The water represents the word or the knowledge. Drink knowledge out of thy own cistern, meaning what? What the Most High gave you, which is basically this Bible. If you want to seek knowledge or whatever, where are you going to go seek it from? You're going to go seek it from these other books, from these other nations, these other philosophies? No. You're going to drink it out of your own cistern, which is this book, the Bible. Right? And so now that's why the Most High told him, as Eve said, the Most High said we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. Meaning what? Of the knowledge that the Most High gave to Adam and Eve to begin with. Law, statutes, and commandments. It was okay to deal with that. But of the fruit of the trees which is in the midst, meaning the other nations that were in the midst, which we got to go back to Ezekiel, the 31st chapter, we weren't supposed to eat of their fruit. So go ahead, read on, brother.
Okay. And it says, drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well.
Go ahead.
Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. In the streets.
Right. Yes, right. We're proving where you're supposed to be. How's rivers of water, which is now going to flow in the streets? If you ain't in the streets, you're supposed to be in the streets.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let them be only thine own.
Right. Let them be only thine own. Go ahead.
And not strangers with thee.
And not strangers with thee. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High have said you should not eat of it.
Right.
Because why? That's the strangers that was within thee, that was in the midst of thee. You're not supposed to eat of their knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You're not supposed to get into that. And see, and that's what they got into. All right, and Jake is still into it to this day. Go ahead.
Okay, and it says, 18th verse.
No, that's the main point. You still got Ezekiel?
No, I had dropped
31.
I had dropped. I'll get it again if you want.
Or I'll get it. Ezekiel
31 and 8.
Right?